Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Getting the Role, an Actor's Perspective. My name is Irina, and I'm the Director of Generations in Film. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And before we get started, I'd like to know where everyone is tuning in from. It's really interesting to find out. So if you can type in your location or where you're from in the chat while I do our introduction. So I want to let you know that tonight's event is getting recorded to be featured on our website and on YouTube later on. So if you have any questions for our panelists, you can ask them in the Q&A window that is down below, and they will be answered in the live Q&A portion of our event. You can also use the chat to interact with our fellow guests, audience, and as well as the panelists. But for all the questions, please do submit them to the Q&A button on the bottom. In addition, you can turn on the CC settings for closed captioning on the bottom right-hand corner. And for a better viewing experience, you can also turn on gallery view. Before we get started, I'm going to do a land acknowledgement. Tonight, we have people joining us from across Ontario and perhaps other provinces as well. And this is the traditional territory of many nations and home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator for tonight, Tanner Zipchen. He's a Canadian actor who's appeared in The Boys, Private Eyes, and he's also a host. Tanner, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Okay, well now I gotta, I guess, introduce everybody else that we will be speaking with tonight. So remember, if you have any questions, we're gonna answer some audience questions at the end, so feel free to submit them as we go. But let's bring them out. First up, we have a Toronto-born actor, best known for his work on Degrassi, Narcos, and most recently, Ginny and Georgia, Raymond Ablack. Bring him out. There he is. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming, man. Good to see you. Next up, known for Remedy, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you can see him next in season 2 of Netflix's Another Life, Dillon Casey.
Yo.
Also, we have a Canadian singer, songwriter, and actress known for a lead role as Trudy Clarke in the Canadian hit series Frankie Drake Mysteries. We're just talking about it. Total cliffhanger. Chantel Riley. Also joining the group, another Toronto actor, similar to Raymond's story. Started on Degrassi, moved over to Ginny and Georgia. You know her as Maxine. Sara Waisglass. What's going on?
What's up? Hello.
Okay, well, I guess we'll start with like some fun icebreaker stuff, and I think to get everyone warmed up, we're here to talk about acting, so let's talk about that first role. So let's go through the group, and what was the first credit? Let's start, I guess, in the order we introduced. So Raymond, you want to go ahead and go first?
My first credit was Simba in The Lion King at the Princess of Wales Theatre, and it was a life-changing thing, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice. Okay, cool. Did you have to sing? You to do the singing and okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't an actor. I was just a hockey player in Whitby, and I went to this open call audition, waited for hours and hours, and just kept getting called back, luckily, and sang, danced, ran around, whatever they asked me to do, and then did that when they put me on stage. Whatever they said to do, I just did that, and it was what they wanted, so it worked.
Amazing. Dillon, what's the story, man? Was it Mufasa? What was the first role?
It was Mufasa. Moving on. Okay, next question. It was I played it was a YTV show called System Crash. I played 2 characters. One was Tommy Jensen, and the other character was Groovy Gary. Ooh. And I answered an ad. Why, Chantel, you're laughing so hard at that?
I remember that show. Sorry.
You remember that show?
Yes.
System Crash, yeah. It was like a sketch show.
Yes.
That had a bit of a narrative to it. And I answered an ad in the paper and just went down and auditioned for it. I didn't have an agent or anything. Yeah.
Cool, man. Chantel, what's the story?
My story is actually similar to Raymond. I played Nala in The Lion King in Germany, actually. Yeah.
Wow.
Raymond.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
So that was my first gig, and I had to do the entire show in German.
Whoa.
Okay, I feel like we're gonna end this with like a scene from Lion King with you two. The
Not
Nala,
System Crash?
Nala Simba reunion scene. Can we do that? No? Okay.
Why not?
Sarah, what's the story?
I think my first role was either a KFC commercial or a Disney show that I did when I was young, called Overruled, which was about teen court, and it was very fun.
And I think to dispel any myths, yeah, you were not like, when you do a commercial, you don't really get paid in the product, right? Or did you get to walk home with a bunch of chicken? Did you get buckets?
Yes,
Yeah,
tons
okay.
and tons of buckets of KFC, and now I can't eat it anymore because that obviously scared me right out of it. But as a kid, I was thrilled. I loved it.
Amazing. That's awesome. And then as far as the job itself, there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons. So let's talk about things that we love, and maybe things that if we had to boil it down to that one thing, the one love and maybe the one hate about the job, if there is one. So let's start with you, Sarah. Do you have, what are the pros and cons do you think about being an actor?
I actually had to think about this really hard. I don't know many cons. I feel like a lot of people would say the hours, just because those are non-negotiable. And also when you're sick, you can't say you're sick and not go in. Like, you kind of just have to like barrel through it, which I think is tough sometimes. Like if you're vomiting, that's no fun. But the best part is definitely the people. I've made some of my best friends from this job, and I think actors are really deep, soulful, charming people. And so it's been lovely to just meet all the people who share my passion. And so I'd say that's definitely the best part for me.
Very cool. Chantel, what do you think?
Yeah,
Same,
I would say the same thing. The best part for me is definitely the people I get to work with. Even with Frankie Drake, I've made such great friends with those ladies, and I'm so grateful for them. But also like the crew who have been with us from the beginning to the end, and all the hard work that they put in, just the relationship that we had to them. So meeting great people is always the best part. The con, I would say, is the hurry up and wait aspect in every single TV film set you will ever work on, is the hurry up and wait.
What's the record for you? How long have you actually had to wait around?
Actually, well, doing this project is probably the longest. I was brought in to set and waited about 9 hours until it's actually needed.
Oh.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
At that point, are they like reprocessing you? Like, do they have to like do it all again?
Like, okay, let's do touch-ups. I didn't do anything, but okay, sure. But that was just like, they were trying to move things around, and then technical things happened. So that's prolonged it. But 9 hours is probably the longest I've waited.
Wow. All right, Dillon. Pros and cons. What do you love? What do you not so much?
What do I love? I love. Oh, that's a hard one. No, I love. It's great getting to do something different every day when I'm working. Not knowing what this next job is going to be like, and getting to do a completely different job every time. But the con is it would either be the crippling uncertainty or the lack of control.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Raymond. Yeah.
Yeah, I really got to piggyback on Dillon there. That's really true. The part that you love is getting to work and getting to do it any day is a gift that you get to do this thing. And the instability of this line of work, can be, and the pressure that you put on yourself. It feels very much, I imagine it's similar to like athletes in that way of like, you feel capable, and if you don't have a team or you don't have somewhere to go play your game, like it can be a really tough thing to deal with on the day to day. But even that's kind of a gift too. Like it makes the victories taste sweeter.
Yeah, and I should mention too, even now, especially with the pandemic and schedules are changing, things are happening, it's even more complicated. A quick update for everybody. Lauren Lee Smith, unfortunately unable to make it, and Nathan Mitchell may pop in at the end. So speaking of people with uncertain schedules, things happen, things change. So we might see Nathan towards the end. But let's get into the main questions, I guess, of the night. So as far as when you really decided that you wanted to be an actor? Is it something that, you fell into? Is it something that you pursued from when you were like a baby, like singing right when you were right out of it into the world? Or what was the story? Raymond, for you, what was that moment when you realized that you really wanted to do this?
I was playing hockey and I was not very good at it. And my parents used to take me out to see musicals and theater a lot when I was younger. And I remember seeing The Lion King and thinking like, I could probably do that if the chance ever came up, not thinking that that was ever going to be a chance. And then I saw an ad, I begged them to take me, and it worked. And I never thought like, oh, this is the thing I'll do for the rest of my life. It just ended up being the case that it was just one activity that I never dropped. It just maintained. And now I'm looking back all these years later going like, oh, I guess I did that for the rest of my life.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah. Dillon, similar story? Did you move on from something else, or did you, what happened?
I did a lot of, I did a play in grade 7. I was the genie in Aladdin, and it was probably still to this day the most fun I've ever had acting. And I think I've just been trying to recreate that feeling for the last 30 years. No, I did a lot of schooling, and while I was in school, I just was not really connecting to anything. I knew I wanted to do school, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. And I always, I was doing plays in high school and pursuing acting over the summers. And then I gave it a serious shot in my last year university. And a year after that, I landed a big job right when I was graduating. And I decided to, maybe I can do this for a living. And then I look back, and I guess I've been doing it for the living for the last 15 years. No, it's like an itch I always needed to scratch. It's something that I was always attracted to. I just never thought it was like a realistic life choice. So I decided to really give it a full go when I was like about 22, 23, and just stuck with it.
Nice. Was there somebody who like really inspired you that you grew up kind of watching? Like, was it like Jean-Claude Van Damme? Come on, be honest. What was it?
Oh, I mean, he inspired me, but I wouldn't say he was my inspiration.
He's the reason you're doing this. Be honest.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, I mean, if I'm being honest, it would be like I think the first movie I remember where I thought I wanted to do that was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I saw it in theaters. Nice. And I was just like, oh yeah, I want to do that. But what they don't tell you about acting is that you're not actually becoming Indiana Jones. You are an actor who's playing Indiana Jones, so you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You're like, oh no, I didn't realize I just wanted to be Indiana Jones. But yeah, it was like like Harrison Ford and Robert De Niro was always a big one for me. I always loved everything he did. Yeah, and also like a lot of my brothers are both comedic writers, so we were kind of all in it together going forward.
Nice. Chantel, inspirations, that moment that you realized you wanted to do this, what was it for you?
It was kind of I fell into it. I sang in church for most of my life, and finished at university with a sociology degree, and I was like, I guess I'll teach, or I danced as well, so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll teach dance or something on the side. And then a friend of mine came to me and approached me, and she said, hey, there's an open casting call for The Lion King, you should just go and check it out. At the time I was working as an auto insurance adjuster, and was miserable. Shout out to all the insurance people. I don't know how y'all do it, but you guys got the grace for it.
I feel like there's a lot of acting involved. Yeah. You have to like really put on a face, and like.
Yeah, it was not for me. I actually remember being at my desk and like praying, like, God, I'm giving this 2 years. Something else has to change. And then at the 1.5 year mark, that audition opportunity came up. And I had, just fell into it. I never thought about acting, to be honest. It was never on my radar. It was always fun to watch, movies and TV shows and stuff, but I never thought like, oh man, I could totally see myself doing that. So it was just something I fell into.
Cool, very cool. And Sarah, you were just like at a KFC as a regular, and then finally they're like, we're gonna put you in a commercial. Is that how that works? Like, what was it for you that you wanted to jump into this? What was that moment?
I was really young. I was 6. And I kind of was thrown into it just simply because I think my family saw that I really liked making people laugh and I really liked performing. And my mom's in the industry, so that was my foot in the door. And I kind of did it for a long time, but then I quit when I was like 10. And my mom always cracked up because she was like, my daughter's retired. Like she's 11 and she's retired. And then that I took like 2 years to myself, got my braces, got my bad haircut out of the way. And then I went back to it, and that was great because then it was my choice, and it wasn't like I was 6 years old and my parents threw me in. It was more like, this is something I really want to do and I miss it. And ever since then, it's like every single job I do, I just fall more in love with it. So it's been nice.
Nice, very cool. And then, yeah, let's kind of open up the discussion a bit too. Let's talk about like when we kind of, we really got started, those learning curves, those initial mistakes, things that you wish maybe you knew before you started. What was it for you? Let's start here, but feel free to jump in if you guys have anything to add. So Sarah, what was anything that you wish that you really knew before you kind of got into this?
Ooh, you should start with someone else. I need time for this one.
Dillon, right? Chantel? I feel like there's a lot of, like you said, I think Dillon, you think you're going to be playing Indiana Jones or becoming him, and then you realize you're not Indiana Jones. So I guess that's one of those learning curves right off the
Yeah,
top.
I mean, you learn that pretty quickly, but like I'd say, I hope I'm not still thinking that.
One day, man, one day.
Yeah, I'd say one thing that I learned is one big thing that I wish I knew before is to let go of control. You're not in control of how you get the job, if you're going to get the job. And even once you get on set, like you have to be, when I first started, I was sort of thrown into being a regular on a show. And I was under I had no idea what I was doing. And I was just so, okay, well, I've seen method actors. I hear what they do. I hear what these people do. So I feel like I had to work so hard just to like say the line, hey, how are you? You know what I mean? Just relax and let go of control in every aspect of it. Like it doesn't have to be, you don't have to suffer. It's just see, the biggest learning curve for me was learning how to relax.
Yeah. Did you agree, Raymond? Was it tough?
Yeah,
I think it's like feeling like you belong there, right? I think for a lot of people, it's like feeling like, you kind of, I think you feel like you're kind of intruding at first, and then you kind of realize like, this is where you belong. And getting that confidence in feeling that some sense of belonging with being on a set with all these people staring at you and knowing that you got this.
And people that you like really respect and that you like look up, like Sarah, being on a set with Sarah, you guys feel like an imposter when you're standing beside her. She's terrific, and all these other tremendous, talented people that you get to be around and work with, and you're like, yeah, that imposter thing, or that putting pressure on yourself needlessly. And it doesn't serve you in any way. And I think like maybe we're all still on different parts of that learning curve. Certainly I'm like still trying to let go of stuff.
Yeah. And would you say like common mistakes people make, and at least in their initial years as an actor? What do you, if you could boil it down to a couple, do you have anything that you can think of at the top of your head?
I mean,
I know some people, when they say it's like, I think some people, maybe they approach the scripts too heavily. I know some people that start out, they like memorize that script like to a T, and then it kind of like starts to make the scene a little stiff, a little wooden. Like, how do you approach a script? How many times do you read it? Do you read it the same as you read it, starting out, or do you approach it differently now? How has that changed for you?
Yeah, I wonder. And then I wonder from the rest of the panel if you have different ideas on this, but I read it a bunch of times, and then I'll record my lines and stuff.
Okay.
And once those are like in, like they're there, then I have to like just scream, because I find like when I get on set, like all the nerves and the adrenaline and my heart's pounding, and it'll just come out like this one practiced way that I don't like, or that doesn't necessarily match it's nothing. It's nothing. But if I find like if I can rile myself up and get the adrenaline going, and still, have some words come out without breaking down crying or something, then I feel like, okay, now they're in a deeper spot, where maybe I can work now. Once those butterflies come back on the day, I can still like operate through them. But I don't know. That's probably that I might grow tired of that process soon. Who knows? I hope.
Chantel, do you agree? Is it the similar process? Do you like study a few times?
Definitely do not do that. I probably was a lazy ass actor, but I usually read the script once. And I wait until like the last edit revision is made because it's always changing. And I read it once, I know what's going on, so that when I show up on the day, I actually know what I'm talking about. And I'm also really lazy in the fact that I think my short-term memory is pretty on point, because I usually don't learn my lines until the day that I get on set. Because I personally cannot retain so much at once. So I'm like, let me just learn what I need to learn for today, and then I throw it away and I don't have to think about it ever again. And then I do it for the next day. Okay, what am I saying today? Great, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Boom, say it, throw it away. I feel like when I do it that way, it's less pressure on me personally, than having to focus so much on the performance aspect, rather than just kind of showing up on the day and feeling it out, what I'm feeling for that moment, and trying to live in the moment of that scene.
Now, for anyone who has trouble remembering lines, I know sometimes there's, depending on what the scene is, if it's like, medical jargon, whatever it may be, is there any tips, tricks, hints that you guys use to retain a script a little faster? Like, do you sing a song to the script? Like, what are the tricks?
My dad once was helping me run lines, and there was just this one little paragraph that made no sense, because, and I'm sure some of you guys have felt this, but when a script isn't well written, the words don't feel right in your mouth. And so my dad came up with like a beat, and this was maybe 8 years ago, and I still remember the line. And like, it's like that, that's like a weird thing that has always helped me, is like coming up with a beat and then I sing it in my head and it's there.
Nice.
I tend to, when I'm rehearsing, I have to move. So whether it's like walking back and forth, doing some kind of movement so that it's in my body while I'm doing it. That helps me to remember it too.
Yeah, it's like putting it into like muscle memory too at some point. Yeah, cool. Nice trick. Any Dillon, Raymond, any other special tricks? You guys like just write it on your hand, I guess, is another trick.
Well, for me, I like to, if I have the chance to, I'll read the scene a couple times the night before, but not really try to memorize it. Okay. And then just so I know what the scene's about. And then once I run it, once I can run it once or twice, I pretty much have it. I'm lucky that way, that once I have I can memorize it pretty quickly. I found that when I was younger, the more I try to kind of memorize my lines, the more I'd be thinking of what my next line is, and I'd be, I wouldn't be in the moment. I wouldn't be present with the person. I'd be oh, do I have them memorized? Do I have them memorized? So I find that if I can run them a few times and get into a flow of it, then I just have to sit back and trust myself and know that I know them. And also, like, it kind of takes the pressure off myself that I just think to myself, I'm allowed to screw up. Like, you do another take or you take it back. Like, you can screw up. It's not, everybody in the whole crew is allowed to screw up except for the actor. The actor doesn't think that they're allowed to screw up. The lighting guy can change his lighting 47 times, but if an actor messes up his lines once, he's like, shit, I'm never gonna get hired again.
Right.
So you just have to relax and be like, I trust myself. I know what I'm doing. And that keeps me present. That keeps me in the moment.
Do you ever feel, it's ever been a particular scene that maybe you guys have shot? Like I was on set of a film once, and there was this really long oneer, and it revolved around the entire cast coming in and delivering a line. And man, I think it was like 42 takes, and we were still trying for it because like we would be 99% through it, and the guy at the end was like, forgot, or like the cap or the focus was off and they had to shoot it again. Is there anything
Living in Oblivion
like that for you?
That's a movie, Living in Oblivion. Have you seen that one? It's like something is always off making the movie, right?
Yeah. Now, also speaking of process, I think for a lot of people that are watching too, they're whether they're already acting or they're getting more into it. I mean, one of the biggest processes is the audition process. And how has that changed for you guys over the years? Looking back to maybe when you started to how you approach it now, things that maybe you've learned, revelations you've had over the years, tips, tricks. Let's dissect. Anyone have anything? Sarah, thank you for raising your hand, Sarah.
I'm like fresh out of school too, so this is like normal for me. I hate auditions so much. Like, I really hate them. And I talk to so many peers and they're like, oh my God, I love auditions so much. Like, don't you just love it? And I'm like, no, I hate it. Like, walking in and getting judged by people is like the hardest, worst thing ever. And so I constantly have to change how I think about it. And what's really helped me lately is knowing that the people who are, you know, choosing you, they want you to be it. They want to see you and be like, this is our person, and move on. So you're all on the same team. And another thing that I've kind of learned is I just gotta chill out. I gotta stop overthinking. And that's probably gonna be something that I work on for a long time. But yeah, what are your thoughts on auditions? Because I hate them so much.
I also hate them, Sarah. You know what? I don't like, I get nervous going into a room. I could know the sides inside and out, but I don't know, something about being in that room. Like you said, the judgment, you want to do well, you want to book it. And it's like, yeah, getting out of my head and trying to relax. I try to psych myself out and be like, oh, whatever. It's just like a small thing. Like, who cares? Who cares? Like, whatever, it's for me, whatever. And I try to psych myself out that way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I personally prefer self-tapes. And in the new COVID era that we're in, there's a lot of that going on. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Because
Have
that
you done
way,
any, like virtual Zoom auditions? Because I feel
yes.
like those are more.
Those are strange.
At least with the in-person, you can develop some kind of like, connection maybe with the reader or something. Those Zoom auditions, they jump to you, you deliver the lines, and then it's like, thanks, click, and you're gone. And you're like, oh, that feels so dirty. I'm gonna go have a cold shower now.
Yeah, but self-tapes for me is like, because you get like so many chances to get it right. And there's a lot less pressure for me,
Yeah.
so I prefer that, definitely. But yeah, Zoom auditions are very weird. It's new, and I guess it's the new world that we're in right now. But
Yep.
I don't know, it's weird. It's different.
It is different. Dillon, thoughts? What do we think?
Auditioning is a tough one. I mean, I treat auditioning like it's a different job than acting, because it really is. Like, it has nothing to do. You could be the greatest auditioner in the world and the worst actor in the world, and vice versa. Like, when you're on set, when you see the way it actually works, it has nothing to do with the audition. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's a totally different job. And I found really slowing down. And I mean, for the longest time, I just wanted to get in, get my lines right, and get out. So I found really slowing down, taking my time, taking control of the time, just focusing on the person in front of me, focusing on the reader, not worrying about the audition having to be the right way or a certain way. Like, the casting director is looking for something. You don't know what they're looking for. And often they don't know what they're looking for. So just go in and do it your way, however it is. And I always find if I walk out not remembering what I did, it's usually a good job.
Nice. Raymond, a little different for you. I want to ask you about like this. Does the size of the role affect anything? Like, sometimes I feel like if you want it too much, does that interfere? Like, if someone calls you like, "Okay, you're auditioning for Spider-Man," and you're like, "Oh my God, this is the best." Like, does that just like, does it completely go off the rails at that point? Or how do you keep your composure? How do you push through it? What's the trick?
It definitely has done that to me in the past when I was a younger actor. Now, I don't know. I think I still don't like auditioning. There's got to be a better system for plucking the right person for a job than to bring them into this thing that they're desperate for, they want to do. They're probably capable. Hundreds of people are probably capable of doing this job. Mm-hmm. This process of stress, and whether it used to be, we used to travel down and go into these rooms for 45 seconds, and then you leave, and there goes your whole day. And the day before, while you did all your preparations and stuff, all washed away. And then you go back and you serve tables or whatever. Like, it's just this.
And the panic attack afterwards, right? Like, the ruminating, going, did I do that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
2 days.
It's the next one terrible, and the next one terrible. So maybe I would even take a Zoom call back over that experience again. But there's got to be a better system for it. And I don't think the size of a role, because I feel like, you're happy to work or whatever, that doesn't, or at least it doesn't bother me anymore. And I will say that self-tape auditions are a lot better for my mental health. being able to try it out with no pressure at home
Yeah.
and send off what I think is the best. Here's what I would do here. What, I don't know. I hope it's what you want.
Yeah, you just treat it the same like I do. I just treat it the same. I just swear and then I just do it again, and I make the poor reader just on the Zoom call just sit and wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my time.
This is my time. This is, you guys are here for me.
Yeah, I'm doing this for free. You're getting paid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Finally, someone gets it. But speaking of auditions, I guess with that, you know, we obviously, unfortunately, can't book every job that we audition for, and there's maybe more rejection than there are more no's than yeses sometimes. How do you guys handle it? Because it is a career where you have to, I think, be prepared to kind of, not always be told what you want to hear, but how do you cope? What's the strategy to get through it?
Yeah, you just hold like lifelong grudges against productions and other actors.
You have a list?
You push it down.
So they hire you, and then you're like, "Thank you so much."
Right. For me personally, I go with the motto: if it's for me, it's for me. I feel like that's helped me a ton in this industry, because there are a lot of no's. And you know what? I kind of go off of, if it's a yes, it's a yes. If it's a no, it's still a yes, because what is meant for me, what role is meant for me, will come to me. And so I kind of stick to that that motto, that mantra. And it's a lot less pressure that way, to be honest, because then I don't feel like I'm a trash actor, or I didn't work hard enough, or why not me? You know, all those things, those negative things that come into our heads. And so I just leave it based off of what's for me is for me. God bless that person that got it. Congratulations. Moving on to the next, especially because they do come in so often. So it's like, okay, if it's not this one, then maybe it's the next one, or the next one, or the next one. Just keep it moving until it lands for you.
Yeah, and sometimes the no, it's wider than that. It's bigger than that. It's not just a no for that particular thing. It's getting, if you get a call back, you're getting in front of a certain director and you're top of mind for the next project. So that no sometimes brings you closer to the next big thing that ends up being a massive turning point for your career. So yeah, it's like, I guess, stepping back and looking at it big picture, I guess. Sarah, do you have any ways of coping with the no's, or have you maybe have never been told no and you're
Definitely been told no. 95% of the time it's a no. And I think you just have to get comfortable knowing that your job is just going in and being told no. But something that really helps me is the second I leave the audition, I rip up the sides and I put them away, and I try not to think about it anymore, because that's the job, is just doing the audition. And then if I get a call back, that's amazing. I'll reprint the sides. That'll be the first thing I do. But yeah, it's all frame of mind. And I've been lucky. I've gotten to sit in on some auditions because I spent a little bit of time as a reader. And it was amazing hearing what the casting directors would say, and how like such small, minuscule things would make such a difference. Like there was one person whose hair was like in front of their face and they were like, no. And I was like, that sucks. So when I don't get something, I'm just like, it could be a whole number of things, has nothing to do with the work I put forward. And I think me and Chantel are the same. Like I just say, if it's for me, it's for me. And if it isn't, something else will come along.
That's it.
okay? And before we switch it back to the positive side, let's dig deeper into the sore spot, shall we? Has there ever been a time maybe in your career, because I feel like, or for everybody here, you know, there is a lot of rejection, there's a lot of no's. Has there ever been a moment where you thought about maybe walking away from it and maybe like, you know what, maybe I'm gonna go back to sell auto insurance? Maybe it's not so bad. What do we think?
It's never gonna get that bad for me. I'm sorry. I'm not going back.
Have you ever considered, you ever had a moment where you're like, maybe, you know, you're on the fence? I know for a lot of people, this pandemic has been a time like that. I've heard of a few actor friends that have, you know, opened a alpaca farm and they're somewhere else in Ontario right now. Like, who knows? Honestly,
The best thing for their acting career is probably to open that alpaca farm in the boonies and then just like go to auditions when they come.
Yeah.
Nice. That's true.
Just,
Yeah.
the acting's there. You know, you can still have the farm.
That's true. And yeah, you hear all kinds of like people's, you know, their big break comes later in their career too. They might be at it for 20 years and you're like they have their 40th birthday and they get that role of a lifetime, which I think is what we should maybe go into next. Let's talk about that. Do you guys have that role of your career that really shifted things for you? What is it? Let's go through it. Who should we start with? Let's go, Raymond. What was it for you, buddy? What was the big one?
Lion King was
Really
groundbreaking for me. It just what it meant to me, like even as a young person, just to know, oh, this is something you can do, and I felt like I was good at it. But I might say Ginny and Georgia, this project that we just did, Sarah and I together, and other really great people. Just like I think what it meant to me, just as like as a young man, like as an actor. That was it for me.
And you're so good in that. If I walked into your shop, I would leave you like the biggest tip. Like you're like, just saying.
Thanks.
Stand up guy. You're the guy like everyone's rooting for, which is the best. Dylan,
yeah.
do you have a role that was like the big one, whether maybe not in size, but maybe that just meant a lot to you, that really changed perspectives? What was that role?
Yeah, I'd say the role I'm most proud of to date is in Remedy, when I played OxyContin addict. That I went into just with full confidence and full trust in myself, and I felt pretty good about everything I did for the first time. I mean, I was in a miserable place in my life at the time. I don't know if you know my history, but I was an actual OxyContin addict playing an OxyContin addict on TV. So, but the role itself, it's hard to say I enjoyed it, but that's the first time I actually really felt like I knew what I was doing. And then the next job that I have coming up in the show Another Life it's the most fun I've ever had, and it rekindled my love for acting, because you talk about whether any of us felt like quitting. I've felt like quitting every other month. I went to law school 2 years ago for a year, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Why am I in law school? I still want to be an actor. So when I did Another Life, and I got such a gift with the character, and I totally changed my perspective on set and just decided to have fun and be relaxed and let go of things that were completely out of my control. That was the most fun I've ever had. That made me realize that I really want to do this.
Wow. Chantel, what do you think? What is it?
Yeah, I would also again say Lion King. It was my first gig. I did it in Germany for a year, and then I did 4 years on Broadway. And so the Broadway portion of my career was life-changing, eye-opening. I met and got to perform with such incredibly talented people and learned so much about the industry while being there, how things work, not just with musical theater and theater itself, but like film and television as well, and getting a U.S. agent while I was there, getting my green card, and then everything else kind of opened up from there. And while I was working there, I was able to get into my first film and then my first television series, which was Frankie Drake. So if it wasn't for Lion King, I wouldn't be here. So
nice.
Grateful.
Well, Hakuna Matata to you. That's awesome. That's amazing. It's such a weird coincidence that two of you.
I know.
Lion King there's so many connections. Everyone's like 1 degree of Kevin Bacon in this conversation. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And speaking of connections, Ginny and Georgia again. Sarah, what is? Do you have I feel everyone's loving you on Ginny and Georgia right now. What do you have? But what is your big turning point role? One of the big important ones for you?
I think I have to say Degrassi was like a really big part of my career, and it was the first time that I felt like, oh, I'm an actor, because as a kid when you're acting, you're just playing the daughter or the little sister, and it's not really like, you don't feel like you're very purposeful. But with Degrassi, I was working with people my own age, and I really felt like I got to play around and actually find the joy in it, which was really, really cool. But in terms of life-changing, Ginny and Georgia has absolutely uprooted my life in so many beautiful ways. And the amount of people that have reached out and told me that my character has resonated with them and helped them, or even like made them smile, is like so meaningful to me. And that's truly why I do this. And so that's definitely Ginny and Georgia.
Very cool. And let's talk about the peripheral stuff now, because with acting, it's a lot more than what we see on the screen. It's a lot more than the audition process. There's a lot of other things I think we can do that can aid our craft. One of those that everyone seems to talk about now, especially with like TikTok and things like that, is social media. How important is and has been social media for your careers? Because I have friends that are directors that always say that like follower counts influence sometimes castings, or producers want, you know, to save on marketing dollars, or even for yourselves to create a brand around you. Like how important is social media, and how do you really incorporate that into what you do, if you do that at all?
I think we are in a day and age where it is important, and everything is moving to digital. And so some people say, if you don't have a social media account, it's like, what? Who are you? What are you talking about? And unfortunately, I have heard the same thing where directors or casting, they look at how many followers people have now, which I think is absolutely crazy and insane. But unfortunately, that's the way it is. So now it's like, okay, what am I gonna post? It has to be like very strategic, and am I gonna get enough likes? Am I getting enough follows? If I book this show, are people gonna follow me now? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, unfortunately, that's kind of the wave that we're in right now.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, have you noticed, Dillon, Raymond, are you guys big on the Twitter and the TikToks? Are you guys doing dances and stuff too?
I find the happier I am in life, the less I tweet. So
there's a correlation there. Yeah.
a strong correlation there. I think I agree with Chantel. Social media is extremely important. I mean, it is a business. We're the product. That's a number that producers can look at. They used to, and they probably still do, look at IMDb star meters. I've overheard conversations where they look at, oh, this person's at 4,000, this person's 19,000. Let's just go with the 4,000. So it's just one of those unfortunate, business meets art sort of things. It's also a double-edged sword. If you're not good at, like, if you're good at it, Chantel's very good at it. I'm not good at it, so I don't do it. And if I ever figure out how to do it, I'll probably do it, because it is very important.
Yeah, it's also like, there's a lot of pressure there, especially you spend a whole career kind of building a brand, I guess you could say, around this, your identity as an actor and whatever. And like, you see so many people that go to a Super Bowl party and then tweet the wrong thing after, and like their whole career is like over before like you got great power comes great responsibility too. So I think as you want to build that following, you also need to take a lot more responsibility with what you're putting out there, and people can dig it up pretty easy.
So, yeah, which is also kind of unfortunate, because like you're not allowed to have a point of view. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think something that's against whatever narrative is at the time, it's like you could literally lose your entire career. You know what I mean? You post or you tweet the wrong thing, or that you don't agree with that's going on, whatever, politics. I try to like stay away from that as much as possible. There was a point where I was vocal about it, but I'm like, I'm not gonna deal with this anymore. Just the stress of it all, on myself, and then like getting comments back. I'm like, I'm not gonna bother. So it's like, so now it's like social media is just straight up, oh, I think I look cute today, I'm gonna put this picture up. Or, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Because there's just no point. Because like you said, it's like, we've seen it so many times where people are getting canceled because of tweets that they made years ago that are being dug up. You know what I mean? So yeah, you have to be very, very careful with it. I
used to get in like political conversations on Twitter, and then I was like, what am I doing? And now I just tweet stuff like, had some soup today, and it's like 7 likes. I'm like, all right, got away with that one. Not getting canceled today.
Yeah.
Raymond, do you feel the same way? Like, do you feel like you have, as you do so many, big things, and you have such a fan base, and you have people do you feel like there's a need to like service those fans and to connect with people? Do you feel like there's maybe a pressure there sometimes to like stay active on social media?
Sure. There's like maybe a pressure to be active. I use social media, but like for my own interests. Like today was the NBA trade deadline, so I was all over Twitter trying to see what was going on, where the Raps trading Kyle Lowry. But I'm not so much, and to this point, I guess our landscape isn't at the place where those metrics, those like social media metrics, really translate literally to actors getting jobs. So to this point, I've cobbled together a career based on auditions. And
the old-fashioned way, huh? Oh,
yeah, traditionalist. And I'm hoping that it can continue to carry on that way. but also I'm like, the reason I didn't pipe in with anything was just, I agree. Like, I think the landscape is shifting and that those metrics are starting to mean more. But I don't know how to drive that vehicle yet.
Yeah, true. Another thing I think that it's very valuable for, for actors getting into this, you see a lot of actors that make that jump behind the camera as well. I think as an actor, to understand as much as you can of what goes on set. Do you find that's an important element too? Like, have you guys ever, if you haven't yet, or would you ever try your hand at like directing or writing? Do you feel it's important to kind of understand the entire process, or do you kind of just like where you stand in front of the camera? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the more you understand about a story, the better you will be at telling it. We can only play one character unless it's like Orphan Black, then you're playing like a billion. But you can only ever play one character in a show, and you need to know your character's function in that show and what purpose they serve the rest of the story, because characters foil each other and characters like interact in a way that serves the greater purpose. And so I've studied scripts for years, and that's what I did for my major in university. I studied screenwriting, and I think that that's given me a huge leg up just because I understand story better and I understand arcs way better. And so, that's something that I think is super, super helpful. But what about y'all?
No, I agree. I think it's really important to know as much as you can for the behind the scenes stuff. I personally would love to get into producing. And mostly because I believe in inclusivity and we don't have enough of it. And being a producer, especially an executive producer, will give me an opportunity to make opportunities in front of the camera and behind. Being a Black woman, there's not many of us on set, unfortunately. I've done this a few years now, and it's like I look around and I'm like, oh, great, there's 2 of us. That's got to change. And so I feel like, as being in a position of a producer, especially an executive producer, would give you more power to bring on more inclusion.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Dillon, Raymond, you ever thought about taking up another job? Props department, maybe? You got us.
How much are they paying?
Props.
What are they paying? I mean, I went to Ryerson for media production, like this really great program, RTA, and like learned about the part of the course that I really liked the most, or the program that I liked the most, was the business of producing stuff. And with some of my friends that I made from Degrassi, we tried to, like, we made sketches and like short films that we submitted to festivals, and more than whatever, laurels you'll win from whatever festival, what's more valuable, I think, was screwing up, or like learning how to write something with a group of people, collaborating, having to learn how to manage egos, the difficulties of, and then the financial strain of, what your dollar and how far you can stretch it on the day, producing something, getting it from idea to post-production, all the little pitfalls in between. Like, that stuff was invaluable to me. So I've to a small degree, like, or on a very small scale, have produced and really enjoyed it. Would like to do that again, once there's not a pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, I find I've written, both of my brothers are writers, and I've written with them, and it's a tough process. And yeah, producing would be a great thing. But creating your own work is definitely your key to freedom in this industry. If you can create work and actually make a living from that, that's the best way to do it. Directing would be great. There's a a lot of times if you're on a TV show and you're on it for a few years, one path to directing is to negotiate that you can direct an episode, and then usually your hand is held pretty tightly by the DP, and you're kind of learning that way, and you can go off, you can launch yourself from there. It's hard in this industry to put all your eggs in one basket. So if you can learn the whole industry, if you can learn to direct, if you can learn to do those things and actually make yourself a hireable person in many different avenues, I think that's a great thing to do.
Yeah. And speaking of, having a well-rounded, appreciation of everything, wild card question: most underrated job on set. Come on, who do you want to shout out to? Because I feel like there's so many people watch the credits at the end of a project, and there's so many names, and there's so many people that work so hard, and there's so many underrated people that do so much. So what do you think? If you had to, maybe it's not the most underrated, but come on, there's got to be one job that you're like, that person doesn't get enough credit for what they do. It's a tough one.
The editor.
Wasn't in the pre-screen. Go ahead.
The editor.
The editor.
The editor is honestly should get a writing credit, a directing credit. If a best picture should go to the editor, like they are redoing the entire movie after it's been delivered. People just dump a bunch of footage on this editor and they're just like making a symphony out of it. Like they should get so much more credit. My brother's an editor and I watch what he does with what we give him. And it's like, I didn't even know we'd made that.
Yeah, it's true. We could tell a whole different story depending on how you can edit things different. I love the cuts, by the way, people do online. They'll take like Home Alone and re-edit it as a horror movie and it works.
Someone, Shiza said boom operator. I agree. Imagine standing like this, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to get those for how, like all day. Those shoulders, they probably have the best shoulders in the entire planet.
They might have one of those like one of those things that you strap yourself on to like straighten your back out at home. Those like inverted, like, you gotta that's chiropractor or weekly chiropractor appointments to align everything after that.
I'm gonna sleep like this, like it's locked in. They show up with 2 broken arms and they're like, I can still work.
Oh my God, I feel so bad sometimes.
And you can't be tired because as soon as you get tired and it sags into the shot, it's like, that's it.
Boom,
like you gotta
boom, shadow. Boom.
Yeah.
And the editor jumps in and takes care of it.
True.
That's true. If there's a budget for it.
Yeah, true.
Sarah, Raymond, anyone you want to shout out to? I feel like there's so many different people.
I'm looking at people write in and I'm agreeing with every single one that comes up. I think everybody works so hard, but one that really stuck out is sound mixers because they're mixing as you speak. And there's so many scenes where like you start to whisper and then you scream and like they're like sitting there like, oh, ah. And so I feel like they are very underrated. So them.
I got to go with craft services, unsung heroes. That nobody works if they don't have food. Nobody gives you their A effort without something in their belly.
True.
I once talked to somebody who remembered every project that they've done by what was served at craft. Like that's how they could recall jobs. Is that you have a similar thing?
Well, that's where I spend, before the pandemic, that's where I spent the most of my time was like inside the craft truck. So like you never have to go to my trailer to find me. I'm just like grazing somewhere.
Poking through things, just
What are you baking cookies? What's going on there?
What do you got back there? What's that? Yeah, I'll take one of those.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You're off.
Yes, that's good. That's a good one. I feel like they put up with a whole lot of crap. And they have to do it with a smile. So kudos to them because it's a stressful job. I see them go through some stuff sometimes. I've had people quit shows because the stress is too much for them. So it's like, shout out to the PAs. Be nice to your PAs. Be nice to your PAs, guys, please. Maybe going through it.
This is true. And if you ever know, you be nice to people, it can go a long way. If you wardrobe, props department, they let you walk home with something at the end of the day. Hey, that's not so bad. Anything that you've ever taken from set, you want to admit it now? Is this like any souvenirs you have at home? Let's go through. What do we got? Who's stolen their entire wardrobe from a job? Come on.
Okay, this is embarrassing because my mom did this for me, but I do take something from every set and she puts them into a little like shadow box and it's literally right there. So I'm going to show you. Like I took the mask, which is ironic, like from Good Doctor, and she like makes a cute little like adorable like thing.
Your mom is so cute.
She's done 2 so far, which makes me feel very special. But yeah, I've taken a lot.
Okay, that's good. The first step is admitting it. So thank you for coming. That's good. The mask is like, was that a prop? Was that was a COVID thing? Who knows?
No, it was a prop. It was definitely a prop. I wouldn't put a pin through a real mask now. I feel like that would be wasteful.
Yeah. Raymond, Dillon, anything you've come on, what's up? Come clean. I know
I stole a pair.
Box is full. Come on.
I've never stolen anything from set, but it's lame. I wore my socks home every single day on Remedy, and I thought I was getting away with it. And they were like, yeah, at the end, they were like, you just keep stealing socks. Like, I do. You're right.
Oh, I
You
never
can get away with like I forgot to take them off like once or twice. But when you've stolen like 78 pairs of socks, they're like, that's not a mistake anymore. That's you know what you're doing.
Is it stealing if you tell wardrobe you're just gonna take it?
That's a good, yeah.
I'm taking this dress, guys. Thank you. Okay.
Before they can answer, they're okay.
That's done.
Yeah, no, I never stole anything from set. I don't think, not on purpose. But they have set sales at the end where I've bought like even other people's clothes that I've seen on shows, for very cheap. Like I think I bought a suit for like $30.
Yes.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah.
Another perk that you don't hear about becoming an actor. There you go. Set sale. That should be number one.
That's right.
You ever have like when you get fortunate enough to get a deal where they say you can keep some of your wardrobe, and you just end up taking a bunch of stuff, and you get home and you're like, I don't want any of this stuff, but it was free, so I took all of it.
Taking it, yeah.
I have like 6 suits in my closet that like I look at now that are just like horrible. I would just move them from apartment to apartment to apartment. I've never worn any of them. So like, they were free.
Oh man! Before we move on to audience questions, I know they're come in. We're gonna get it there in a second. To just jump out of the acting thing just for a moment. When when you're not on set, you're not preparing for a role. What are you guys doing? What's going on? What are we keeping busy with these days?
I have a kids boutique called Sweet Riley, and
Okay.
sell kids clothing. I also do music, so writing songs and all that stuff. I released an EP last summer called I Am.
Cool, amazing. All right, who's next? Sarah, what's the hobby?
I just finished university like in September, so this has been my first year kind of like out in the world. Yeah, thank you. And now I'm actually working part-time at a spin studio where I clean people's sweat and I give people shoes, and I'm also training to be an instructor, which is very, very cool.
Very cool. Dillon, Raymond, what's up? What's the
I like to exercise quite a bit. I walk my dog, read. Recently got into some day trading, meaning I'm just losing money with no purpose. I've tried to, in sometimes like tried to do part-time jobs because I felt like they would keep me a bit more sane, but I find the job itself makes me crazier. Like I worked at a wine bar in LA for a bit, and I lasted a month. I worked at a bar back in Toronto. I lasted 3 weeks. I've taught tennis. I was a tennis player growing up. That was probably the best thing that I did. That kept me going for a bit. And what else have I tried to do? Oh, I got certified as a personal trainer, but never got a job. So I do. You know what I do with most of my free time? I look for things to do, and I just don't do them.
Yeah.
amazing?
Wow, that's took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, thank you.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I'm writing. Like I don't know.
I write movies.
I write. Yeah. I mean, I do, but
No, I'm sure you do. I'm just.
I picked up editing, like
Cool.
whether it be like recutting my own demo reel for the 15th time and like
That's a good move. That's a good move.
picking it, or my sister's or friends' demo reels, and some of those sketches that I referenced earlier, like just recutting them, trying to make them funnier. They're not there. It's not there. That's the fault of the writing and mine. But editing, I'm really enjoying, and that's a way to pass the time. Plus, like I've just gotten way more into the Raptors and the Leafs. Like there's nothing else to obsess over beyond scrolling Twitter and looking for watch bombs.
Have you noticed too, Raymond, like in the pandemic, like when this lockdown started, all these actors I know were like, when's this lockdown going to end? I got nothing to do. I'm like, guys, this is how your life is anyway. What's the big deal? What are you complaining about? Like, if there's anything you can handle, it's a lockdown.
Yeah.
There's very little difference. In fact, there's
Literally
20
training
now.
for this for years. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what you've been training for.
Now, our
Yeah.
first audience question, semi-related, from Jordan Harvey. What are some things that you do between jobs to stay busy and on your A game? So very similar. Anything that you do, I mean, maybe it is like working out. Like, what do you guys do to kind of stay on your A game, you know, as an actor? So when that next opportunity comes, you're ready to jump on it. What do you do?
Coach, like train. I think that a lot of people are like not really down to train because they think they'll come out some kind of, you know, mimic of whoever has been trained before, or at least that's how I saw it for a really long time. But once I started training, I started growing in ways I never even thought I could. And so I can't recommend that enough. That's like working out, basically. Like that's just like keeping our muscles up and running in terms of the craft. So I would say coaching for sure.
Oh, cool. Another question from Miriam. What is an industry secret that you learned that you wish that you knew when you first started out? Is there something that you could go back in time and just put that little nugget of information in your head? What would it be?
When it comes to Los Angeles, I'd say 90% of the time or more, the job is going to go to somebody who's hiring knows.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even know that one.
Yeah.
Good.
Like they're going to give it to they go, that person's audition was great, but I know Doug, he's a nice guy and he's pretty good, and we can rely on him. So I wish that, and I've never been good at this. I train a lot, but I wished that I treated networking as a job, and it's an unfortunate part of the business. I always felt gross doing it, but I found that if I knew somebody, if I knew the casting director, if I knew a producer, if I knew a writer, they were either going to get me in the door and push for me, and that would be taken a lot more seriously because they knew me. It's just like getting a reference for any job, right?
Yeah.
You have to do a good audition too, but if they know you and you do a good audition, your chances are way higher.
True. Yeah. Actually, now Brandt has another question. Brandt Schellenberg, do you find that nepotism is a serious issue in the acting industry? So I guess, yeah.
Well, who you know, that's what they say, right?
Yeah.
I might disagree. Like I don't have it. Like when I booked Lion King when I was 10, we thought we had to pay them. Like my parents were ready to pay the production to let me do it. Like, I mean, I don't know about nepotism. Maybe a different word that.
I feel like musical theater is different than film and television, though.
Well, then tell me why Scott Eastwood's a huge star if nepotism isn't a problem.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
I once spoke to somebody who had a film that was Oscar worthy this one year for Best Picture, and he said it was like a whole thing, and people don't realize is that a lot of the actors they go to these like voters' houses, and it's all about like who you know and like making these personal connections, and it's way more personal and political than people think, and it's so I think there's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff at play. So things that
that's why you should really say, but that's another reason why you should really say yes a lot more. Like put your ego aside and even do jobs that you think that you're like above. Get yourself on set, get yourself working, get yourself your reputation as somebody who can be relied on and just professional. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to know them personally. That helps, but if they know who you are and you have a background, it's like doing a credit check on somebody. You have a background of like being a professional and being somebody that they can rely on. That's really important.
Well, Sarah's got to figure it out because she's going to do like one spin class at a time. She's going to get like 20 people in a room and then.
Well, the other day I set up a class for one of the instructors and she pulled me up and like basically gave a shout out being like, Ginny and Georgia is on Netflix. And one of the people in the class emailed after and was like, I'd love to have her on my talk show. I was like, okay, that's great. Hey. So networking is very important and powerful.
Very, yeah. Question from Brandt. Oftentimes people say that you have to move to LA to pursue acting. However, the US's visa system is difficult, and oftentimes agents and casting producers don't want to deal with the paperwork and non-citizens. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think we need to relocate to get started, or is it best to kind of stay where we are? What do we think?
I thought that I had to go to LA to break into the film industry after I finished Lion King. and I went to LA for pilot season. I did all the pilot auditions, callbacks, tests, and all that stuff. But at the end of it, the first show I booked was a Canadian series that I could have very well just been at home to do, like, you know what I mean? So I don't necessarily think that's the case, especially now with where we are in the world. A lot more projects are actually coming back home, are coming to Toronto. They always were, but I feel like a lot more are coming to Toronto now, especially with COVID and stuff. Producers are deciding to shoot north of the border. So I don't think we have to be there anymore, especially now where everything is online, Zoom auditions, self-tapes. You could literally be right at home, wherever you are in Canada. I don't think you have to leave anymore.
Yeah, you look at some of the most popular shows, like everyone's watching right now, and it's like 90% of it is shot in Canada in some capacity, Vancouver, even Manitoba, Toronto. And I have a friend that moved down to LA from Vancouver and then only kept booking Canadian jobs in Vancouver and then ended up just moving back. He's like, that was kind of pointless, but yeah.
I would say,
sorry.
oh, sorry, Dillon.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Having the American credentials, though, does get you in the door more for U.S. productions. Even though they are shooting in Canada, some people will decide to hire U.S. people or whatever in Canada even. But for productions that do happen in the States, I feel like, yes, if you do have the credentials, you will definitely get your foot in the door faster.
It's a strange thing that happens, Chantel, and you touched on it. Once you go to Los Angeles, Canada starts hiring you.
Oh,
and they start hiring you a lot more, and all you have to do is be there. And they also start paying you a lot more, which is a very strange thing. You just have to be there. I find that although a lot of things shoot in Canada, a lot of the US productions come here and they cast to kind of fill in the blanks. The leads, if you want to actually get the leads in these shows, you can get them from Canada, but to really have a shot at getting them, I think you have to be in Los Angeles. Or at least you can go there, get some credits, come back, and then you've established a bit of a name for yourself. I think if you're in Canada, you're going to get recurrings. You might get if you're really lucky, you might get like a low series regular. But yeah, to be a lead in any of these American projects, I actually do think you have to be in Los Angeles.
Okay, cool. An anonymous question. What is your number one self-tape audition tip? Raymond, do you have any good lighting, obviously.
Yeah, which is quickly becoming not the case in this experience, but yeah, good lighting is great. When we were talking about earlier, that process for auditions or for being on set, where I like to get in the bathroom and scream my brains out until the words feel like they're in there. Similarly, conversely, what I've found with my self tapes is learning them while I'm doing it, just learning the words and really getting a feel for the scene while I'm doing the takes. Feels like nothing. It feels like the most organic, off the cuff stuff, which is really quite bubbly and bouncy. I'm liking that in self tapes right now.
Cool. Yeah. Anything?
Yeah.
Some of it.
I'm a cheater and I use a teleprompter app. I have this tripod that has two cell phone holders.
You little cheat.
Marlon Brando did something like that. You're fine.
Myself, and then I have one phone to read off the lines. I found myself stressing over learning dialogue that's 15 pages long. Again, it's these casting directors think that we have time to learn 4 scenes and have the tape due the next day. How dare you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna just read it off. And so I've found this teleprompter app, and it moves along with you. You could change the speed however you like. And I call up my sister on the phone, and she's my reader. And I set up the eye line perfectly. So I'm just looking slightly off camera, and I'm reading the lines, and boom, sweat off my back. I've gotten several callbacks actually. So if y'all want to cheat, here's how.
What's the app called?
So this app that I use called
Lazy Ass.
Elegant teleprompter. There's several others on there. I know I probably look like, girl, what the hell? You are a cheater.
No, Chantel, Marlon Brando did the exact same thing. And Robert Downey Jr. had an earwig in his ear for all of Sherlock Holmes, people feeding him lines. So you're in good company.
I ain't gonna stress anymore, y'all. I'll worry about it when I get on the set.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, it's crazy. You get something in your inbox and it's like due tomorrow, and you're expecting it to be a couple of lines, and it's like 5 pages, and you're like, what?
Like, dare you? I'm gonna read it off the screen.
You're like, I had stuff planned. I have a casserole in the oven. What the hell am I supposed to? Come on.
Always a casserole. It's always a casserole.
Always a damn casserole. A question for everybody who had formal training. So did you study acting in college, university? If yes, was it worth it? If no, would you do it if you could go back in time? Some people say, this is maybe one of those jobs that you learn a lot on set. You learn a lot from just kind of making movies, making stuff with friends. Do you learn more in college in a course? Like what do we think? If you got an education, do you think it's well used? What are our thoughts?
Feel like my training has all been in the behind the scenes stuff. Like I've never really gone to school for theater or for drama. It's all been, in high school, my major was just film. And then, like I said, I studied screenwriting in university, and I feel like that kind of gave me what I needed, and like a different perspective, which I think is literally crucial in my acting. So I would say that helps a ton. I can't speak for studying theater, but I know a bunch of my friends have and have had a lot of success with it. But that was the right path for me, to just study film and screenwriting, and it's helped me a ton.
Yeah, I'd mirror that with radio and television, the media production stuff, the insight or the depth that it adds to like your understanding of what you're participating in, like this whole medium of what we're participating in. Yeah, there's a depth to that. That's I'm glad I did it. At least went to university for it.
Cool.
But no, never did theater or any kind of training like that.
It depends on how you want to make a living. If you want to make a living as a theater actor, then I think theater school would be important. I don't think that there's there's no good acting schools out there that teach you how to act in TV and film. So a lot of theater actors will come out, do some theater, and then they'll realize to make a living, I have to do TV and film. And they'll come on set and be talking like this and rah, 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 rah. And like, how do you you got to break all those habits, right? So for me, I've always thought of acting as a sport, and you just got to get out there and, fail, and kind of learn by doing. And I did a lot of training. I did a lot of I tried every class in the book until I found something that worked for me. Yeah, it's different for everybody. Some people come out of theater school and it just helps them. It helps them in all aspects of it, Yeah.
Jocelyn wants to know, if you could choose, what 3 actors would you like to work with? Keep in mind, there are 4 people on this panel right now, so choose wisely.
Chantel Riley.
Yeah.
Raymond Ablack. Wiseman.
Waisglass.
Waisglass. Sorry. Waisglass.
Are there do you guys have bucket lists of actors that you would love to work with, or is that kind of all too much stress? I feel like it's one thing wanting to, be in something with somebody, then you actually walk on set beside that person, and then you're just like, this is regrets. I can't do this.
I think the second you start seeing it as like a hierarchy thing, and I think that's when you lose.
Yeah.
We're all doing this for the same reason. We all have a passion for it. And so if we get to work with people that we've idolized, if we can keep it on that same equal level, then I think that's the dream. Yeah.
That was it. That was it.
Except Zac Efron, obviously. But
well,
that's the
coolest thing. The coolest thing I ever saw was I was lucky enough to do this movie that Sam Neill was in. And just seeing the way he approached it and how relaxed he was, and it was no different than he was just all right, let's go do a scene, and then you just go in and just kill it. So it's nice getting in there with people who have a lot of experience that you watch, that you've watched your whole life, and there's nothing. They kind of takes the magic away, and it's just okay, you just gotta relax and just it's just I mean, I would love to work with Robert De Niro or Al Pacino.
Yeah, more probably, yeah, just to absorb what they know and some of that wisdom, and just to be in that, get behind the scenes with those people. It'd be so cool to see their approach to it all. Although it's like you say, with like the earpieces and like with the Wizard of Oz with the curtain, sometimes you don't want to know. You're like, dude, no.
I personally do want to know, because there's this feeling of inadequacy when you hear about some of these big up actors that have they talk about their intense processes, and I think 90% of the time they're talking shit.
Oh my God!
Getting on set and actually working with them, and then going, "Oh, you're full of shit," so that I'm not missing anything.
For the longest time, I was so confused because everyone could cry on cue, and I was like, "What the hell are all y'all doing?" And then someone was like, "There's this thing called a tear stick." And I was like, "You a-holes!" And so that was like amazing. And sometimes you can't get there, and so it's like nice to have those little tricks.
What's a tear stick?
What?
Yo,
it's amazing.
Right?
They take this little thing and they go, and it makes your eyes water. So all you have to do is like focus on like, and then.
Illusion.
It is illegal in 12 countries, but.
Oh my God, tear stick.
You can get it at like they have these like makeup stores specifically for like makeup artists, and they have it there. I think it's called a Kryolan stick.
You can it's basically like, you know, those menthol inhalers that you get that you can have to,
like
it's pretty much that.
Like Vicks.
Yeah, basically that. Yeah.
Don't put it in your eye though. Just like blow it into your eye, kind of.
I did that once on a show.
Yeah, we all kind of do that.
I was so desperate to cry. I was like,
get in there.
Sometimes you can't do it. You need a little help. That's fine.
Is there like, speaking of which, are there places, you know, to draw on certain emotions? Do you guys have things that you really like drawn? Like, do you think of the last 20 minutes of Titanic to really, you know, get sad? Like, what do you have, like, maybe not this on the sad side, but is there something like when it comes to like channeling certain like anger or happiness, do you pull it from life and try to think of that last thing that really pissed you off? And
there's a really great running joke that I have with a couple friends where like if anything bad happens to us or if we're ever upset, it's like, use it. Like put it in your emotional toolbox. And then you can pull from that whenever you have to do a scene that's tough. And that's been working so far.
Amazing. Another question from Olivia. How do you prevent yourself from being too much of a perfectionist while self-taping? So maybe let's start with Raymond. If you're self-taping, how do you kind of, do you cut yourself off after so many takes? Like, how do you, because if not, you're just going to keep on record again. So what do you do?
It's sort of that same experience of when when you like go to the fridge and open it up and you're like, yeah, I don't really like anything here. You close it, you sit down for a while, you go back in 10 minutes and then you look again. And then it starts to look a little bit better as you keep going and getting hungrier. So as you're taping and you're at 15, 16, 17 takes in, I guess one of these is starting to look a little bit better than the others. I think you just like if you're not getting there or you're not getting what you want of yourself, eventually you've got to make a choice. So I think time and your reader's time and lighting as it starts to go away, natural.
Yes.
Joke that didn't work.
The joke I was making with my friend when we're self-taping, we're on the fourth take, it's and cut. Okay, yeah, the first one worked.
Yeah.
Let's go with the first one.
I give myself 2, maybe 3 max takes. I can't. Like, if I don't get it after this, that's just what it is. It's where I'm at right now. Again, I don't have time, guys. I don't have time to waste. Get to the point.
Yeah. Or just deep fake. You just deep fake your face over some other really talented actor, and then you're good.
Perfect. I'm gonna use that next time. Actually, it's a good idea.
It's like, so I'm gonna need 3 weeks for a turnaround. I got a VFX guy that's gonna take a look at this. We're gonna clean it up. We're gonna put some. It'll be good though. When are we shooting?
Right. Totally.
Sarah, anything that you for self tapes? Anything you like to like regulate yourself with? Anything you kind of?
Like I said earlier, I tend to overthink and
Okay.
I will kind of lose myself in that. And then a tip that someone shared with me that I think is genius is just think about what you want to change and then forget all of it. and then just be there and just let it happen. And most of the time when I do that, it's my best stuff. And
Cool.
so it's really about just calming yourself down and believing that it's in you and it just has to come out.
All right. Crystal wants to know, we haven't really discussed it too much, but the old pandemic, how has that changed acting for everybody? I mean, obviously the daily, at least weekly swab up the nose, but how is any other big differences that you guys have noticed, maybe for the better, for the worse? Any big changes? Feel free to take it away.
Raymond, we were on a wedding ring. Was that your first time wearing masks all day?
On
work?
set,
Like,
yeah.
while at work?
That
Sorry?
was my first project during the pandemic. Definitely was a trip to be on set all day, and then as an actor to be in a space where everyone's wearing these masks plus the visors, but it's somehow okay for us to be taking ours off. But 40 people were just in here stomping around, and their safety, but ours, it's all very.
It's strange, but it's also a thread I don't want to pull because for some reason our business is essential, and let's just keep it that way. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to know, and we've been fortunate to not have been touched by it to this point, and just leave this card castle alone, and nobody blow too hard.
This is true. Yeah, I heard somebody talking yesterday and asking if there's been any like outbreaks and COVID cases on set, and I think people are maybe surprised to learn that it's like it has happened. I think most of the friends that I know that are on projects in Toronto, it's like, but we have such parameters in place to isolate things, and the daily testing. If there is a positive case, we're able to kind of like jump on it and isolate. But any other for Chantel, for Sarah? I mean, Chantel, you're shooting, you're somewhere else right now. So how does the travel and the quarantine, how did that all play in?
We had to quarantine for 14 days. They put us in a hotel. We can't leave our room. There's security on our floor, so we can't run away if we wanted to.
Wow.
But we're also under the SAG regulations. So we actually have to get tested 3 times a week. And you masks on set, like that same whole thing. So yeah, it's been very
Wow. Do they let you do it yourself yet, or the nurses still do it?
No, the nurses do it. Yeah, but it's not the super deep one, which I'm grateful for. She just does it right in here. Yeah, and three times a week.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's and then the mask wearing too is like, as an actor, you're like the rings on your face, the big marks. You're gonna like go on.
Yeah, from being in the sun.
Suction cup ring on your face, and you're like, all right, we're rolling. Oh God.
Oh God.
There's also the brutally cynical outlook of it, of productions using COVID as an excuse to cut costs. Like, oh, we had to fly you Canada 3000. Like, why? COVID, man. And you're like, okay, sure, I can't argue with that. COVID.
Have you guys noticed any changes as far as, the content of what you're shooting? Like, I know a lot of productions have changed. They had, epic, bar concert scenes that have now turned into like a coffee shop with 2 people. Have you guys noticed on the script level, things have been written differently to be more welcoming for the restrictions?
With Frankie, we definitely cut down our background amount, like a lot. At each set, you see, like outside of the set, like how many people are allowed on the set at a time. So that's probably one of the biggest things that's changed for us, is how many guest stars we're allowed, and how many background.
Yeah. No more spitballs on set too. That's a big bummer.
That did suck.
That's the big. Yeah.
And no more craft service. You can't just go graze on the craft truck.
How are you even like still in this business, Raymond? Like,
I don't see how much longer. You were talking about when are we going to quit, and I'm starting to look like an option.
Where do you like wander around now? You just go hang out at your trailer?
Just wander around in there and talk to myself. Scream my lines. Overdo it.
Yeah. Once they take the trail mix away, you stick your fingers in there. What's the point?
A little individually wrapped trail mix now.
Yeah, so Ziploc bag.
I like to open up each of them and.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's it.
One more question. We have time for one more fan question. This is we haven't really discussed this too much, but when it comes to getting an agent and the whole process of getting representation, an anonymous attendee would like to know what's the best way to begin a strong relationship with an agent for the first time. So maybe in finding the right fit. What's the key?
Communication. It's a big one.
See, for me, I got my agent through a friend. So if you have any other friends that are actors, and I've also introduced people to my agency that were friends of mine that were looking. So a lot of it, if you have any people in the industry that could set up some kind of meeting, even just a meeting helps. That's one way to start. Get a reel together, get headshots and all that, so you have something to present. But I would say if you have any friends in the industry, ask a friend to see if they could get you a meeting with their people.
Yeah, you got to be a bit shameless when you're first starting out and just be like, "Can I get a meeting with your agent?" Because people have a really hard time saying no to your face.
Yeah. Do you think the size of the agency comes into play? I know some people that say like, everyone wants to go with a big agency with a big roster with some big talent, but other people say like it's better to go with the smaller boutique agencies because they maybe pay more attention to you. They put you out for more stuff because you're not always competing with people at your own agency. Does that factor in at all when you're making a decision?
Are we talking about Canada or the US?
Either or, yeah, either or. Do you?
If you're in the US and you can get with one of the top 5 agencies, you should take it.
Take it.
Because there's so much politics involved there. They'll go, I got this new actor. I will give you this person for this price, but you got to hire this person. Mm-hmm. Like if you can get with one of those agencies, sure, there's a lot of competition. You might get buried in the scrum, but like there's hungry agents there, and you're just, you should take that opportunity. There's a billion people in LA that want to be actors. If you can be with Nike instead of Brooks, you should go with Nike. Although Brooks is pretty good nowadays.
Yeah, the dad shoes are back, man. I mean, come on. Raymond, any advice for finding an agent or just, feeling one out? Do you have like a criteria? Do you have like a secret mental checklist that you go through?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've been with my same guy since The Lion King, which was 2001. Like kind of followed him through different, like when he's moved agencies and I've gone with him. So I also think like the landscape has probably changed since my formula worked for me, and it probably works differently for different people. Like I've just started on TikTok, and like I see the funniest kids and like creators on there, and I feel like there's your built-in demo, like, or whatever, or like you could pitch that, I imagine, and go in. I don't know. I see like kids on there that I think should really be doing this, and
they get full series out of those things. Like, there were people on Vine that got like shows out of it.
Yep, true.
That's got to be an avenue. Like,
yeah, you hear about you're talking about the audition process and everyone hates it, but yeah, you hear about people getting discovered that are like eating in a cafeteria and they get offered some crazy job, and you're like, why can't that be me? I want to just be like walking down the street and Spielberg rolls by and is like, you're the perfect guy, and I'm like, I'm in.
Well, now he's scrolling by. Now he's just scrolling by.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, man. Yeah. We just let Raymond we didn't laugh at that. Was a good joke.
They can merit me.
That was an underrated joke.
Sarah, any agent tips, tricks?
I was too young to remember how I even got my agent. I remember he was mean to me when I did my monologue.
I feel like I know who you're talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
He stopped me like one sentence in and was like, no one talks like that. I was 6 years old, and like my eyes started welling up, and I was pissed. I was like, how dare you? And so I just wanted to get out of there. So I completely changed how I was doing it. And then he was like, you're so directable. So it was kind of a fluke. But I don't remember how I actually got his name. So every time someone asks me how to get an agent, I never know what to do. So I feel like these guys are better suited to that question.
And if people reach out to you on from a weird email and say they're an agent, that's not real, FYI. Just
And if they ask you to pay, that is not a real agency.
yeah, there are people. Yeah, you hear it all the time. People that are like, so things to be aware of. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us for this amazing conversation. So let's bring Irina back in to kind of wrap things up. But give everyone a virtual round of applause. Do we have emojis? Can we do that? I don't know.
We can make sounds. Guys, thank you so much. It was an amazing panel, very informative. And thank you for sharing so much from your work experience, your life experience. It's a good mix of being raw and kind of really exposing a lot of things that people don't always talk about. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the amazing energy and really sharing everything. Dillon, Tanner, Raymond, Sarah, Chantel, thank you all.